Good afternoon. My name is LJ Simpson, and today I'm going to take you through a short lesson about the climate change that happened throughout the Oligocene Epoch. As a brief overview about the Oligocene, this epoch extended from around 34 million years ago to around 23 million years ago. Overall, the climate started to dwindle down to low temperatures due to glaciers forming in Antarctica, and the tropics had diminished, which gave way to cooler woodlands and grasslands. Also, this time also saw an emergence of mammals, which had blossomed with the disappearance of the dinosaurs after the Cretaceous period, or known as the KPG extinction. Lastly, an important geographical event that happened was that Australian and South American landmasses separated from Antarctica. So, as previously mentioned, the Oligocene epoch lasted from around 34 million to 23 million years ago, and it's often considered an important time of transition because there was a link between the archaic world of the tropical Eocene and more modern ecosystems of the Miocene. Major changes during the Oligocene included a global expansion of grasslands and a regression of tropical broadleaf forests at the equatorial belt. The start of this epoch was marked by a notable extinction event called the Grande Cooper, and it featured the replacement of European fauna with Asian fauna, except for endemic rodent and marsupial families. So the general climate about the Oligocene, it was relatively warm. It relatively kept warm temperatures, other than like the late and early Oligocene, because the early parts of the Oligocene were the Eocene and started becoming cold, and the late parts of the Oligocene going into the early Miocene became very cold. But overall, it was still very warm most of the time. But when we got later into the Miocene, it started to become very, very, very cold. And you'll see that in the next slide as well. So on this slide, we have a graph showcasing the different epochs within the tertiary period. So during the Eocene, we were able to maintain a hothouse and warmhouse temperature during this epoch and the previous epoch. But as we got into the Oligocene, those warm hothouse temperatures started to dwindle down, and we started entering a cool house. So I think some glaciers may have formed, but we were still able to relatively maintain some warm temperature. But going into the Miocene, that's when a lot of glaciers started forming, and that's when the temperatures really started to drop severely. So what we see here on this slide is the globe showcasing the different points around the world, all the continents having their own different types of temperatures or climate changes happening. So in North America, on the west coast, we can see it was arid. In Central America, we can see it was tropical. South America, we can see it was arid on the west coast. Africa, it was mainly tropical and arid it was arid in around Europe and Asia. So these are basically the different points of the climate change that happened throughout the Oligocene epoch. So as you can see on this slide, we have the epochs, and we have these three pictures showcasing the different types of worlds we were basically in. So we had a greenhouse world early on, way before the Oligocene. It was relatively warm and hot, and then going into the Oligocene, also part of the late Eocene, it started to get cold in the upper parts of North America, Asia, and lower parts of Australia and Antarctica. And then going from the Oligocene to the Miocene, we started to see a lot of those temperatures dropping because glaciers started to form and started getting relatively cold. So during the Oligocene, the main event was obviously the separation of the Australian and South American land masses from Antarctica, and what that did, that drastically changed how the climate was, how vegetation was, and how animals developed. And scientists, they gathered proxy data like tree rings, ice cores, fossil pollen, and ocean sediment to observe how these changes had occurred. So as the Eocene ended, the temperatures began to drop, and at the start of the Oligocene, they plummeted. So glaciers started to form around Antarctica, and the growing of these ice sheets had led to a drop of sea level. The cooling effect was spread around the globe by circulating currents that produced a dramatic drop in temperatures, and equally important, a new climate marked by seasonal fluctuations. Evidence for this was that fossils were found of many animals of the Eocene that needed to live in a warm climate that became extinct in the Oligocene, and this also became the Great Divide. So here we are at the end of the lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, see you later. Take care. Peace.